I'm sitting in a gym parking lot. I was on the interstate this morning. The cars were flying by me. I was laughing. And a truck flew by, a pickup truck blowing black smoke. He had to accelerate it to the floor. I was laughing. I said, you know what all these people have in common? All of them that flew by me, they're all sympathetic dominant. Yeah. You can't say that, Charles. You don't even know who's in the vehicles. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. They're all sympathetic dominant. Almost everybody is. It's not their fault, though. What's sympathetic dominance is when the autonomic nervous system's out of balance, which is the majority of society. Autonomic nervous system deals with sympathetic and parasympathetic. Sympathetic being fight or flight, parasympathetic being rest and heal. Sympathetic's used when you're running from a tiger, when you're in a race. Parasympathetic when you're sleeping and your body's healing and fixing itself. But people get a condition called sympathetic dominance, where they lean to the sympathetic. They never balance. They always forward in the sympathetic. Some are worse than others. And almost everybody's that way, because the way life is, it tends to put you more in that state than it does the opposite. You never heal. You never sleep right. I was like that the majority of my life. This is one of the most important things I've ever learned as a human being while I'm alive in the flesh, is balancing the autonomic nervous system. Completely changed my life. I don't feel the same way as I did for almost my whole life. Yeah, I ramble verbally, but that's my brain cortex. It's not my autonomic nervous system. No. Racing? No. Now I dream every night again, multiple dreams every night. And I can be in a room at a higher temperature and be fine and comfortable. I was never like that my whole life, ever. I was probably sympathetic dominant since I was 10, probably. Look, once I did this exercise that requires 6 minutes a day spread out through the day. Let's say I get up in the morning and do it 1 minute. 3 hours later, I do it a minute. Then 3 hours later, I do it a minute. And 3 hours later, I do a minute. Till I get 6 minutes a day. That'll balance your autonomic nervous system. An exercise called a Hummingbird. It does multiple parasympathetic exercises all at one time. But it takes a while of work. With me, I was so sympathetic dominant. It took probably a month of doing that exercise to where I could tell I was different on a daily basis, to where it was solidified, where I could tell every day. It blew my mind, too. What if I wouldn't have done it? What if I'd have blown it off? I knew the man had credibility I was seeing. I said, it doesn't matter what he tells me to do, I'm going to do it. And he was right. He proved it to me. I've never not done it since it started working. I've never not done it. I was like that almost my whole life. How about this beauty? When people buy the best bed they can, the best sofa, everything is the most comfortable they have, and they're still exhausted. They're in the most lounging position they can be in, they're still exhausted. You know why? Because they're sympathetic dominant off the chart. That's why. Their actions of relaxing have nothing to do with what's going on inside. Look. You know how many people on prescription drugs because the autonomic nervous system's out of balance? You can fix it with no money. 6 minutes a day over time. Once it gets in the right state, it'll stay there as long as you keep doing it. I've lobbied, probably thousands of people. For 7 years I've been doing it, I've lobbied to thousands. I haven't got one person to do it. Not one. Not one! Not one person have I got to do it. People who do parasympathetic exercise, they do breathing stuff and all those are parasympathetic, but they wait till they have an anxiety attack or a panic attack to do it. They're never balanced. They're just doing it when they gotta go to the hospital, basically. Look, it needs to be done every day to balance the autonomic nervous system. 6 minutes. You go, I ain't got time to do it. There's another sign you're sympathetic dominant right there. I ain't got time. I don't have time. Yeah, you do. There's so many people that could probably get off prescription drugs if they would balance the autonomic nervous system. Look, no, I'm not a doctor, but you don't need to be a doctor to see all this. Go look it all up. Go look up sympathetic dominance and all the symptoms tied to it. The man I see, he said I'm one of the most sympathetic dominant patients he's ever had. It is interesting how I've lobbied at that many people. I haven't got one person to do it. No, not one. No. They may have done it, but they didn't do it long enough days for to see it do anything. Because they want it to work in a day. It ain't going to work in a day. Probably took me a month to get it to work to where I could tell. What if I would have blown it off after a week? I would never know. It changed my life. It totally changed my whole being. You'll tie so much of that, how you feel, to being old. It ain't got nothing to do with it. No, your nervous system's a nightmare, probably. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. It's so important. Because your brain is going fire, 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 like you're running from a tiger all the time. You don't even know it. Look, you can only do that so long, then you're going to break down and you're going to have all kind of weird symptoms show up. I'm telling you, that's what's going to happen. Yeah, and you better have a real strong constitution when that happens. I'm trying to help people for free. And it'd probably save them money if they did it. They could probably eliminate taking stuff. I still haven't got nobody to do it. 7 years, I've talked to thousands of people and I haven't got one to do it. Isn't that a howdy-do?